What's up, Space Pirates? This is your captain, the certifiably suave Dr. Disaster, and when a movie like Furiosa does so poorly at the box office, despite the fact that it is received well by the audience and the critics, everyone struggles to find an explanation, and the mainstream media are trying to explain away the real reason.
Nothing to see here!
Well, I'm gonna save everyone a shitload of time here and tell you what's wrong with Hollywood releases these days. Here is the issue. You idiots in the film industry, from the actors and the directors all the way to the critics and the journalists, have alienated a massive chunk of the audience by making too many bad movies and then blaming their failures on the audience, calling us ists and phobes and everything else for noticing the declining quality. At this point, it doesn't matter if Furiosa is any good. Even if critics that I trust tell me that it's solid, I have no desire to see it. My apathy, which started with Star Wars, has extended to most movies, and clearly I'm not alone, which is why Hollywood is dying.
And nothing of value was lost.
Alright, me hearties, make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet, and also, don't forget to follow me over on Twitter, where my handle is Dr. Disaster1. But let's read a bit about what the journalist class is trying to say about the abysmal box office for this past Memorial Day weekend. 4 reasons why the Memorial Day box office was so awful and what it means for a struggling theatrical business. Heading into Memorial Day weekend, it was already expected that the box office would see the lowest totals from this holiday since the turn of the century. The final results have fallen even below that. The number 1 film for this weekend, Furiosa, made just $32 million over the 4-day period, making it the lowest number 1 Memorial Day release since 1995, when the family film Casper opened to $22 million before inflation adjustment. Alright, let's get some context here and do a little math and actually adjust for inflation. According to thenumbers.com, the average movie ticket price in 1995 was $4.35. So, if we divide the box office haul of Casper from that year, which was $22 million, by the average price of a ticket, we can see that roughly 5,057,000 people went to see that movie on the Memorial Day weekend. These days, the average movie ticket costs $10.78. So, if we divide the $32 million that Furiosa made this weekend by that number, we can see that approximately 2,968,000 people went to see that film on its opening weekend. Considering the fact that the population has grown significantly in these past 30 years, this drop is a staggering indictment of how out of favor Hollywood has become.
I don't care.
But let's skip down now to the 4 excuses this article is providing for why Hollywood is failing. The first one they're using is the Hollywood strike of last year. Since the start of 2024, exhibitors and studio executives alike knew that the first half of the year would be rough, with films like Pixar's Elio, Mission Impossible 8, and Deadpool and Wolverine getting moved due to production delays caused by last year's 191-day double strike. Theaters would not have anywhere near a full allotment of movies to keep businesses humming. And they do have at least a little point with this. There is definitely a major black hole of movies coming out this first part of the year, but that still does not explain why these films have been failing for years now. This doesn't explain last fall's The Marvels, or last summer's Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. So let's move on to the next excuse. No Marvel. Heading into its final week, the May domestic box office is set to post the worst total for the month since at least 2006, which happens to be the last non-pandemic year that did not have a Marvel movie to kick off the summer season. So which one is it, Hollywood? Is superhero fatigue a thing or is it not? Because on the one hand, we hear ad nauseum about how superhero movie fatigue is driving people away. That is supposedly why Marvel movies have been doing so poorly lately. And yet, here they are pining for another Marvel movie because apparently that is the difference maker in the box office this year. Well, I'd like to point out that the character that these morons tried to turn into the new flagship character of the MCU after Iron Man died, Captain Marvel, well, her last movie crashed and burned, and I can tell you why.
Nobody cares.
Nobody cares about this shit any longer. You can only replace male characters with female characters in these male-skewing movies so many times before we stop watching them. And you can only demonize a large section of your audience as awful people so many times before we just say, to hell with you. But here's their next excuse. Furiosa and Garfield are not 4-quadrant tentpoles. We're going to skip down to this paragraph after they discuss the movie financials, where it says, it's worth noting that even if Furiosa had matched the start of Mad Max Fury Road, a film that opened to $45 million in 2015 and made $379 million worldwide, Furiosa wasn't ever expected to be a Fast and Furious or Disney remake level moneymaker for theaters, skewing more towards male audiences and to longtime Mad Max fans. Well, there you go. You acknowledged finally, Mr. Journalist Person, the very simple truth about a film like Furiosa. It has a largely male audience, and Hollywood has abandoned the male audience. They hate the male gaze so much that they drove us all away, and now no male is gazing at their movies any longer. And let's be clear, Mad Max as a franchise absolutely has the ability to be a major player for the box office. An older Mel Gibson returning to the role would have made massive bank, much like Tom Cruise did with Top Gun a few years ago. But once again, we had to abandon the male for the female. It doesn't matter if the film was good, the problem is that nobody gives a shit about that style of film any longer.
I don't give a rat's ass.
But the final excuse that this article mentions is finally one with some real truth behind it. Audiences are more selective. Now, if I see a female character in a male role, I don't watch it. Period. You can tell me that it's good until Armageddon happens, and it won't matter. I won't go see it. The difference between this and, say, Ripley from Alien is that Ripley didn't replace anyone. She just was who she was, and she was awesome. And her films didn't come out in an era where they were trying to shove the message down our throats, so I still trusted those movies. I still go to movies these days, but I am, indeed, very selective about what I go and see. But I'm going to leave it there. How do you explain the failings of these movies at the box office these days? Drop your thoughts in the comment section below, and we will talk there.
Thanks for watching, me hearties. If you haven't already, your captain is inviting you to subscribe to the channel and become a part of the crew. Life as a space pirate may not be glamorous, but there's always plenty of booty.